Everyone has something to share, in either wisdom, story, or logic, and it's clearly amazing to hear all the differing missing links discovered by people, unique to their own journeys, and in how they have come to discover them. Together, we can help to build a bigger picture for a better future, for a brighter tomorrow. Let's stand united. Let's remove the veils, and let's create a new world together. Are you that missing link? Join Jesse Hale on the Missing Link Talk Show as he helps to unveil the mystery through the unique wisdom and store of others.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome everybody here back to the Missing Link. Today we're excited to talk to the bearer of the controversial Native American flag. He's a Native American activist of the Cree Nation. His grandfather, Robert Rabbitskin, was a political driving horse for the Big River Indian Reservation, whom received a medallion from Queen Elizabeth, whom also was a part of the 1984 Accord, where many of the First Nations and Meti fought for the human rights of its aboriginals. Adrien is a proud Cree who seeks to instill education on the most powerful symbol they have, the swastika. How are you doing today, Adrien Thomas, aka Adrien the Realist?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
Doing good. Happy Canada Day to you and everybody. If you can call it Happy Canada Day, it seems like we've been in slavery for, not just your people, but they're looking to have slavery amongst all the Canadians. But why don't we start off with telling us about yourself, telling us about your journey, a little bit about your background, your education, what got you into this fight to expose the tyranny and then bring back, your people to full standing and rights into this country and throughout the world.
Well, it started back. I can go right back to the 80s. My grandfather was a big advocate in youth about the Treaty 6 and understanding the importance of land issues, especially as a Native American. But what brought me into this fight wasn't something that I just like. Nobody just wants to be a part of a movement. Nobody wants to be a part of politics in general. Honestly, I just want to do my business. But the more and more I looked at what was going on since 2008, even beginning of that 2001, how Canada and the United States are so intricately connected. The policies that have changed over the years due to the rise of the inflation system, and we can attribute the inflation system into UNDRIP as well too in World Economic Forum. But when it started to affect me coming out into the white man world, I say white man world loosely, coming from a reservation, it was something else because it's like a concentration camp. You stuck there, but when you come over here, you start realizing that it's a great place to come and work. But I started seeing freedoms and rights slowly eroding, not only for myself, because coming from a reservation, you start realizing the real in-depth politics of, let's say, the Indian Act and everything like that. But the more we hear, the more I slowly understood how Canada started eroding its rights when it came down to 2008 when what's his name, Stephen Harper made a deal with China for the water. And then after that, it came down to 2012, the rise of of social media for more people to be more aware. But then 2014, 15, no DAPL. And then from North to Dakota Access Pipeline, that part right there, the killing of, the pipeline here in Canada with Justin Trudeau, to stop the pipeline going through Native American territories with, environmental activists who were paid by George Soros. And then you start seeing that when that pipeline was trying to go across to BC, they instilled, a bear sanctuary just so they can to stop it. The more you start seeing these things happen, the more you start realizing, there's they disguise it as environmental rights, or climate change, but you start realizing that they're trying to destroy Canada and its its wealth, and destroying Alberta is a great way to destroy Canada. And that's when I started realizing there's something more to it. Talking with the elders up in Saskatchewan in Canada, they realized that there's got to be an agenda, because we already know that this is the kind of agenda that always affected us when it came down to the treaty land entitlement. So whenever we look at politics and policies, especially the change of power, especially what involves thereafter, and we started realizing that there's more to the issue of just environmental policies. They want to take over Canada, and who's coming over here, and you guys already heard about that, is UNDRIP, United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People. What they're really trying to do is try to take over unceded territory and Native American territory to destroy the treaty that me and you have. You're a treaty person as well too, Jess. You are a treaty person. To have rights, and that's what we start realizing with identity politics, from changing our name from North American Indian to First Nations to Aboriginal to Indigenous. There's something to be said about that, because they have laws in the United Nations that call us Aboriginals or Indigenous, but not First Nations. Nations does not have no constitutional bearing, or does not have a really proper definition. When we change our name from North American Indian to Indigenous, and then when they change definition in any such law, that treaty itself will start to fall. And that's the thing that we're looking at. And why are they trying to do that? Is to take over our land rights, because Canada has the greatest amount of resources in the world. So there's something to be said of everything intertwined. And why we bring that our Native American symbol out is because it gets even more deeper than people really think, because that was our symbol to begin with. But we are also, the laws that may be, the laws that the power that the government follows underneath the world's, the World Bank, these elites and everything like that. And that's what we are challenging, because they use that as a shield, and they've taken our symbol in Native America, and they use that as a weapon, for everybody else. So I don't know if you know what I'm really talking about, but it gets even deeper than that. So hopefully that answers some of your question.
Yeah, that was great. So why don't you tell us what you know about the history of your flag and the swastika, and how it was stolen from your people?
Okay, since 1890 to 1911, there was this author named Karl May, and he made these stories in in Germany, and he sold over 200 million copies of these stories. And one of the heroes in those stories, while it was written around him, was like a Native American named Bitchute, and he was an Apache chief, and he made all these stories about America and the conquest of America, going through these tribes. And in that tribe, in that story, he had the swirling log as well too. The swirling log is the swastika for us, right? But he used that in that book. And a great one of these leaders at that time, a young leader. Well, he wasn't a leader at that time, but he really loved that author and his books, and his name was Adolf Hitler. So that's how Hitler has taken the swastika. But for us, the swirling log and the symbol of it came from the stars. You see, the Big Dipper itself is the seven grandfather teachings. The seven stars represent seven grandfather teachings and the seven grandfathers. But every season it goes 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees. You put that on the ground, it becomes the swastika. And that's what we used for ceremony. It was one of the most important symbols we always had. It was the symbol of truth. It was a symbol of vulnerability, and that's what we called the Thunderbird symbol as well too, because in folklore, the Thunderbird itself either blessed you with what do you call, with blessings for your nation if you're an honorable nation, or it could destroy you because it'll destroy the light. So a lot of Native Americans across Island believe that it was a good omen or a bad omen, depends. And it was only in that symbol itself meant honorability for us and goodwill and good luck and all these things. But when how that symbol came back to us in the idea of everything was because of the fact that we seen what was going on in Canada. We seen what was going on with taking over our rights. We've seen what was going on to not only our rights, but after a while, we started opening our eyes and seeing what was going on to Canadian values, the farmer, everyone down the line, and we realized what was going on with them. We realized that they are actually getting indoctrinated into the reservation, just like we were. And my elders at the time told me it's about that time when this is from their point of view, when the white man starts living the life that we are living. We don't go against them. We empathize with them, because then they understand the enemy that we actually have. You know what I mean? We don't wish nothing against the Caucasian or anybody inside of Canada, because they sooner or later went through. And that's what my elders used to say. And now they're saying what is actually happening is these 15-minute districts are basically the white man's reservation, is what they say. Not only that, the indoctrination of your children into, sexualization, when they are trying to bother the most sacred spirit we know, that's the sexuality, because we never used to ostracize it with religion or nothing. It was celebrated. It was understood. It was a reflection of your spirit and soul when it came to mind, body, and spirit. And the spirit is, the soul is your mind, and the spirit, it comes through you with the energy. But when they start messing with the sexuality when you're a child, they are going to destroy the child's mental capacity, the understanding. That's what we believe in our natural law teachings. And when they're doing that at the school, what they did to us in residential schools, we made certain that the parents weren't there, the kids were at the residential schools. This is exactly what it is. That's what they say. Residential school is 2.0. So that's why this is a 2.0 in the white man's school now. And he who rules the children rule the future. And that's why we said it's about time we bring that Thunderbird flag out there for true unity, because now we can say, we can call them brothers, because they can understand, and we empathize. We do whatever happened to us. We do not want it to happen to you guys. We do not want it to happen to you guys. Make certain that when you fall, we all fall. So this is a time for us to actually unite. And we look at every single thing, and the trucker convoy just made a really big stage. I asked them last time when I went to Winnipeg. It took me 14 hours to bring the clan mothers together, and we had to go to the Thunderbird house, and we had to talk with the longhouse with over 600 clanswomen across the United States and Canada. They said, "Is it time? Because the white man will stab you right in your back every single time, no matter what it was. They have stabbed our backs. So is it time?" I said, "Yes." And they said, "How are you going to do that?" "Well, we have to bring the ancient Thunderbird spirit back, the flag back, the symbol back." That's a Nazi flag. No, that ain't. Don't ever call it that, especially when it's one of the most sacred symbols we ever had. And then they had to challenge me for a long time. They said, "These white people," they kept on going. I said, "You know what? I'm not here for the white people. Down the road," which means that when it comes down to that aspect, they cannot go back to the Liberals, NDP.
Your connection is freezing up, Adrien. Yeah, you're totally frozen right now, and we can't hear anything that you're saying. At least I can't. I'm not sure if anybody else can. And thanks, Trevor, for commenting here on our LinkedIn account. This is our first LinkedIn comment. We just started on LinkedIn not too long ago, and I didn't know that LinkedIn comments pop up on the screen. It doesn't show us that anybody on the screen is from our LinkedIn, so it doesn't add to our numbers, but it's good to see that anybody that does comment on LinkedIn, will actually come up onto the StreamYard here. So yeah, he's frozen. Okay, he's bounced off. Yeah, he's frozen. So maybe he'll have to reconnect. Hopefully his battery didn't deplete. But what do you all think of, his information so far? And yeah, Matt, I will get to some of your questions of him once he's, done speaking and sharing his presentation here today. And then I will ask him some of those questions. So thanks for those. Matt, the Unseated, is a researcher trying to connect the dots, who's connected to who. And he's got some questions earlier on that we put up onto the screen for Adrien, so he can, share his thoughts on what those, questions are, if he is connected to some of these areas, or he can just explain how that works. I hate being called the white people. I think we're all natives to the earth. We are, Trevor. That's for sure. No problem, Jesse. Sorry for pumping out several questions at once. Not trying to push you, bro. No, I get it. But when you do have the questions, maybe pump them towards, middle or, before because I'll have to scroll all the way back up to them, right? So, but I like to let the person finish kind of what they're speaking, kind of the presentation before I get into some of the questions, especially, from, the people that are listening. So not sure what happened. Usually they pop back on, so I have a feeling his phone may have depleted, but that's just my intuitive guess. Yeah, wow. So we have here, Trevor says, I stand with the Thunderbird flag. I'm tired of us fighting. It is time, that we stop fighting each other. There is a global takeover. There is a 6,000-year-old death cult that's been in charge here for hundreds, if not thousands, 6,000 years, some people call it. They obviously, like he said, they want the soul. He believes the mind is the soul. And, they're attacking everybody's mind manipulation, mind control. Government means mind control. They use, pharmakia, which is black magic sorcery that was talked about in many different books throughout time. And they use the pharmakia, they use the government, and then they use the media, which is also mind manipulation, to indoctrinate people. And they want everyone to be like them, be like robots, inject themselves with all these toxic, poisonous chemicals, and get them more like a mainframe where they have, imagine you calling in for work and the boss picks up the phone and you say, yeah, I'm not feeling well. And, oh, that scan says that you're lying, and they actually can scan your brains, can scan things, tell what you're thinking and feeling. I think that's the way that they want things to go. They want you linked to a mainframe where they know all your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, transhumanism. So, and yes, mind equals psyche, and psyche is Greek for soul. So, they want to control your soul, and they're doing that. They're attacking the children, bringing sexuality to the children, confusing the minds of all of our precious little ones. And that is what's happening. And, we really need to protect our children and come together as people. And Adrien really believes that, at least this is going to help free his people because this is just another attack on his people by not allowing them to have their sacred symbol and sign because it was inverted and perverted by the Nazis. So welcome back, Adrien. Was just chatting with everybody. Did your phone deplete?
No, it started resetting itself and resetting itself and stopping and resetting itself. And I said, what the heck? Now I got a different phone here.
Okay, yeah, great. So sometimes, things happen where they want to hinder progress and they do it subtly. So, we do get attacked subtly by these different forces that they don't want this information out to the masses. So, a lot of the last few things that you did say we didn't catch because you started freezing when it was happening. So, I don't know if you remember where you left off, but if maybe you can start back then.
We were talking about unity at the Thunderbird House, and what happened was they never believed that, no matter what it was, they believe that it's the system itself that is designed to keep us separated. And it's the bloodline of money that keeps us separated, especially when you're talking about the credit system, how it divided the nuclear family. And that's what they talk about. And we're talking about our point of view is spirit and soul. But when we talk about the idea of, the government itself, it still has to go underneath laws, underneath the man-made system, underneath the bloodlines of money. And that is the biggest problem that we had when we came down to understanding what was going on with, with Canada. So they believe that, no, the white man will never be right behind you. He will never be behind you. And I said, the red people are not behind us. They're selling as well too. The white people are starting to be behind us right now. So at that time, like I said, in our prophecies and our understanding, when things happen to them, we're not supposed to laugh about it. We're not supposed to go against them. We're supposed to reach out our hands and say, yes, this is where we went as well too. And by lifting up that symbol, it denounces all political parties, because obviously they set up the stage, the trucker convoy, and so did all this bureaucracy when it comes down to World War II. It set up the stage as well too. And then they were asking me, when you're going against that, they're going to go against you with their education of what happened in World War II. Yeah, but isn't it funny that nobody ever brings back the atrocities of Native America? I know we talk about it, but this is a perfect time to bring it up, because they're going to talk about 6 million that died. Well, what about the 100 million that a lot of people estimate, 80 to 100 million that died here, but nobody bats an eye? It's only because they are on the bones and they can't really say too much about it, because then they might feel guilty, and that's the reason why. But here's the thing. That's the thing. Our past can also unite us, because obviously it's not only going to us. I mean, we're in a worse situation being in the reservation because of the Indian Act. And they're asking me, what do you mean the Indian Act? Well, the Indian Act is the thing that instilled residential schools, instilled the reservations, instilled our corrupt leaders, because they have to. That's not our system. The chief and council system was not our system. It was perfectly designed by the Commonwealth and Canadian government. And also the education system. I said, now this is the perfect time for us to rise and go and tell the truth of what happened to us will happen to them. And we don't want that to happen to them. And by lifting up the symbol, it's a true sign of, unity. Because when you look at the true sign of unity, that also means that we have to go to the past and take away that symbol that they fear so much and use as a shield. They use that as a shield, and that because we're all manipulated, we're all indoctrinated into that war. And I said, well, what does that mean to you? I said, a lot of countries, especially Africa, and especially a lot of places, know one thing, that there's I don't want to say the name. They sit over top of the government. As a matter of fact, most of these businesses across the United States and Canada are numbered companies who have CEOs that relate to that identity. And at the same time, too, the bank system is related to that identity. The reason why John F. Kennedy got assassinated is because he was talking about these organizations and these secret societies. The reason why, World Economic Forum was instilled in 1971 because of these entities. They're all in cahoots with each other, and these are the reasons why our politicians, all of them, are bought in common at the Parliament House right now. 51% of them are underneath the World Economic Forum because they got the power. They know how to do it. So when they say that this is a symbol of hatred and everything, no, I look at it as a symbol of truth. Because if we want to look back at everything, our government is bought. Who is buying them? And when will somebody actually point out that issue? A white man can't do it because, like I said, his tongue got cut off. And I mean it by this, you can't say white pride anymore. This just keeps on getting dead. This other phone got shut off now too. We need another phone here.
I can still hear you, Adrien. Adrien, did your screen close, or because I can still hear you and see the ceiling. I'm not sure if you can hear me. But yeah, that's fascinating stuff. And what, Adrien was talking about is the colonialism here in North America has decimated, genocided 90% of the Native American Indians that were here. There was over 100 million Native Americans in the 1700s before colonialization, and now there's less than 10 million. So that genocide that isn't talked about, that no one seems, now they're starting to bring up some stuff with the residential schools and with the Catholic Church. But I think that's just wanting to destroy the Catholic Church as much, because they don't talk about who went and stole the kids from these resident or from the Native American families. It was the Royal Canadian Mounted Police under the Queen and the Crown. Under what orders of the Crown and the Queen? Why doesn't anybody say that it was, these residential schools are due to the colonization, due to colonialism, due to the Crown? We didn't hear anything about that. It's just these residential Catholic schools that they talked about. But they're not, now's the time to, that colonialism, the Commonwealth needs to be dissipated. We need to become our own country once again. As Matt pointed out earlier, we're not a country, we're a corporation. We're a registered corporation, under the Crown. And now is the time that we really need to bring and this information out to the masses, so we can actually rectify these insane policies that these code enforcers seem to want to put on everyone in order to enslave people. Look what they did to the Native American Indians, putting them in reservations, putting them in concentration camps, legalized by the country of Canada. Concentration camps. That's all that reservations were, concentration camps. And they took the symbol, their peace, their truth symbol, this symbol, and then because of Hitler inverting and perverting it, did they do this on purpose to keep the Native American Indians down, the indigenous down? Was this done on purpose, so they wouldn't have any power to be able to rise up and unify their people in this symbol? Very fascinating stuff, because this is the first that I've heard of it when I found Adrien not too long ago. And it's very, very, concerning that they want to keep his people down. Yes, they want to bring reparations for the schools is what they're kind of talking about. They're having this program called UNDRIP, which is United Nations Declaration to give the land back to the indigenous people. But it's not. It's to steal the land from everybody else, usher people into these smart cities, 15-minute cities, as Adrien said, the white man's concentration camps. But they have all the people in the Native American councils are all done in a council that was done by the colonialist, and they pay those council members in order to go with what the colonialists want. They don't have their system. The Native American system was a matriarchy where it had the women would elect the chiefs and the medicine man. It was done by the women of the people, you know, to put the right people into place that would lead them in a proper way. And, you know, that was all taken away from these council, you know, with what they've done with the colonial councils. And then, you know, it's their money god, right? You know, how many people worship money? How many people can be swayed and get them to do what they want through money? That's what their god is. And, you know, they don't have any other god but money. And Adrien, I'll take it away.
Sorry, now I'm using my friend's phone here. This is ridiculous, man. But like I said, you know, what they try to do is use that aspect where we're just talking about money. Yes, they're protecting their power, because not only because of that, they're using that as a shield, as what I was saying last time. They're using our symbol as a shield only for the fact that it's like manipulation of the education that they had before. And in 1940, they made us sign that paper, like I said, with our symbol. We never have done that. And now that we decided to bring it out, it's for complete unity. And not only that, the more people actually educate themselves as to what the symbol really means to us, where it goes, how deep it is, then they'll understand that it actually frees you guys as well too. Because the education system that they have put onto this country, United States and everything, is, you know, that we always believe the victor tells the story. I mean, at one time we were wagon burners. You know what I mean?
They teach that in the Freemason indoctrination camps they call schools, that the victors always rewrite history in their favor, burning all the books. And they've taught us there's been, you know, empire after empire. So how many times has history really been rewritten? How many times has they, you know, hid the genocide, the torture, and all the things that have happened, you know, to make them, you know, look like this golden, you know, knights in shining armor, and hiding all of the evil that colonialism and all these other things have done.
That's so true. And here's one of the things I want to say. How much does people know about Native Americans right now? Yet they're living in America. Nobody knows nothing about our past, our 24,000 to 26,000 dwellings across Canada and the United States. Nobody knew that. Nobody knew that we had written text as well too. But then when you go down to South America, you start realizing one thing, that there's actually temples over there. And over here in the Grand Canyon and earthworks in Ohio, people, they don't put these out here because they made it illegal since 1492. Anything prior to 1492 was destroyed prior to that. And that's the thing. We know more about Egypt right now as Canadians and everything than we do know about Native America. And not once have anybody questioned that. Now you wonder why. Is because this is what they do to take over countries, and not only that, to take over governments and powers by erasing the history. They rewrite the future. And that's all it is. Nobody really knows how the World War I started. Some people do. But when you really think about it, it was just, you know, warmongers. That's all they were. And who sponsored both sides of the war in World War II? And by that saying, Jerusalem was bought because that was a part of the three-tier thing that they wanted with the, what do you call, the Iron Curtain Treaty. That they wanted to get, they wanted reprimands, they wanted to be at the seat of nations, which became United Nations. And after World War II, they wanted to make certain that Jerusalem went back to the Jews. You see? And then now when you think about who, and I say that straight up, who sponsored both sides of the war? Obviously the World Bank at that time. So there is a complete narrative here at the same time too, just like what happened to the trucker convoy here as well too. I know my phone is starting to do some weird stuff. In case you lose me again, I'll jump back on the other phone here. I'm just letting you know that right now because it's starting to go like in this pausing and it's going like this again. But like I'm saying, like I'm not against the narrative of genocide. I'm not, because we went through genocide ourselves, and I'm pretty certain your generation, your people have went through genocide yourself. And I tell you right now, What happened to us is what happened to you. You guys went through the Indian Act in your guys' country as well too a long time ago, and that's what colonization done. They destroyed your culture. They destroyed everything. When you guys used to be pagans a long time ago, you guys had symbols. You guys came from the earth. You guys had your own ceremonies and everything, and all of a sudden they destroyed it. And then after that, after 500 years, you guys got indoctrinated where you guys had a country, but you guys lost land, if that makes sense. And that's exactly what they're trying to do here. Ironically, we're the last nation out of the 56 Commonwealth countries that actually have a treaty right now that's still standing. And the thing is, that's what they're trying to come after. They're trying to take away every single cultural thing, even inside of that treaty, that actually protects your rights as well too, as a what do you call, as a colonizer, because I'm not colonizer, but as you know, as a settler, and because it takes two people to make a treaty. So when we lose our status as First Nations, or not First Nations, as North American Indians, and underneath that we belong to the land. Once we lose that, and we take our image and put it in the United Nations, then what is that treaty worth here? That means that they can take the land, because we always said protection of animals, water, and land. That's what it was. But now they think that they know better, but they destroyed every single thing in every single country. You know what I mean? That's what they've been doing. They're indoctrinating our children right now with liberalized ideas. There's only one other person in history that did all these things prior to everything, and that was Hitler. So when we really think about it, this is actually what's happening. You know, that's how they take over countries. This is how they do this to people. And that's why we're taking back our symbols, because we believe, in our honest opinion, they made that symbol evil for a reason. So that way, because I tell you right now, your country, where I don't know where you're from, but if all of you people look back in your history, that's why I say history is very important. If you guys look back in your history, you guys will start noticing that you guys had gods as well too, and other symbols, and a lot of them were swastikas. And that's what they did. They perversed it. They used religion, they used governance, and they used, all these things that this is not just a new thing. This is 1,000 years old that they've been doing to colonize all these countries, and they separated us. And then at the end of the day, we're still paying taxes, So this is what they do. And we know that. We've seen it. We know every single thing. We're just lucky enough to understand this system. If you guys want to know the definition of politics, you look at the reservation. And your reservation, you'll see how bad it is. And that's why where I came from, I had to rise from the ashes, learning all these things from strong Native American old men that were a part of the 1984 Accord, 1976, and all these things, 1976, 77, when they started fighting for their rights, and they got granted in 1979. Human rights alone, that's all it was. But today, they are doing that to you guys. And that's why with our prophecies and our understanding with the elders and everything, this is a time for real unification if they mean it. Because we cannot play in the sandbox of corruption, because that's what it is. The sandbox is their system, and every single grain of sand is their making, and they'll give you the tools, these little plastic tools to make your own kingdoms, but at the end of the day, it still exists in that sandbox. Like I've always said, sometimes you just have to walk away, take a crap in that sandbox and walk away. Because at the end of the day, we're always been true. We always been free. We always have free rights and every single thing. But now that's what they're trying to take away. They're trying to take those away from us. And it's not just politics alone. We have to understand that Canada has been for sale. Canada is not free anymore. Canada is underneath the occupation of the United Nations because they own the house right now. These are the things that we have to understand, and that's a true understanding of things that we know. And that's why we're here to warn you guys that if you want unity, we have to look at it different. We can't play in their system that they created, because they make the law. That's what Gandhi realized. Gandhi realized no matter what law he beat, another one would take its place, another one would take its place, another one would take its place, to the point where you can't do nothing. They just corral you into the corner with all these things. Even you see, government does not, what do you call this? We do not win. We win cases, but the government never loses. You see, they never lose because they're the ones that make the law. They're the ones that, like my grandfather always said this: the white man will come to you with a treaty, his white piece of paper. But if you go to the government, the white man with the government with your piece of paper, the treaty or some kind of law, they will laugh at you because they are the power. So you actually have no power at all or say. You can negotiate with them, but when the negotiation over 10 years, 20 years, it'll bite you in the ass anyways. You'll have the finest things until they corral you in a corner, and then they'll take more rights to the point now you don't even have rights of water. And that's what's going to happen here in Canada right away with UNDRIP, because that pipeline that's coming from over here, what are they going to ship over there? Water. Because what's happening in the United States, how many derailments, how much water is there? And Nestle CEO said, water is not a human right. That's what he said. So think about it. Water is life. That's what they're going to be selling here because Canada has the largest amount of it. I don't know. That's what I have to say about that. But yeah, that symbol has a lot to do. It gets really in depth. And that's why I say, my elder said that's the perfect symbol, because not only that, we believe that it's a symbol of truth. It comes from the stars, and everybody holds that. After a while, you will be able to grant them back their tongue, because then they will actually fight for human rights. They'll actually fight for natural law, and not this perverse system where they control you with racism. This is why I've always said, the day I will be proud is the day when a white man can say white pride, white power, just like native power, because we all have to be equal. We cannot play this identity politics no more because of racism. Racism is ignorance. That's all it is. And when people say racism, it stops that veil of real communication. That's all it really is. But people are so messed up because of feelings before facts. The truth is, it's supposed to be facts before feelings. We're supposed to celebrate each other's cultures. We're supposed to celebrate each other's understanding. We're the diverse culture, just like you and your old people back in the day when they were pagans. We have to respect your customs and cultures like you respect us, because we bring something to the table, and that's what we believe in unity, because there's differences and we're supposed to celebrate them. We're not supposed to be equal and all be corralled in one thing and destroy the culture, because guess who wins? They win. And every time something happens, they'll say it's racism or it's Islamophobia or religious sexuality or something. The truth is, it's not. There's nothing wrong with people. It's just that they pin us together, and that's how they have this power over us. I hope that you guys know what I'm talking about, and that's why that symbol is here.
Yeah, a lot of people here, are agreeing with what you're doing. We got a question here from Trevor on our LinkedIn. He says, how are we going to get through the hate towards white peoples when we are just slaves like the rest? We were born into this. We didn't start it.
Well, we just have to unify underneath one cause, because, the greatest way to bring people together is share each other's blood, hold each other's hand in battle. And this is a spiritual battle, because then we understand each other. We have a common enemy. But if we play these little games where Native American this, white man this, black people this, and everything, that's their game. We're in a casino right now. And what we're doing is we're playing blackjack, and the house is going to win anyways, because they set the rules. But if we decide to say, we never needed the government to unite us at all. That was the big mirage. All we had to do was just sit there, come together, talk to each other about our customs and culture, respect each other. You come to a powwow, I go to a Ukrainian festival, it doesn't matter. We talk about these things, and we become family and friends. It's that easy. But the media, Bill C-11, Bill C-18, that's how they control us. That's what they were said. That's why John F. Kennedy was assassinated. He said the media is lying. So how we come together is we just have to come together underneath one true cause, because whether people believe it or not, this is religion. This is not, I'm not talking about God or anything. this politics became a religion and a set of beliefs, and it separated the right from the left. That's what I mean, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we have some questions here from the audience that want to know a little bit about you and your possible affiliation. So here is one question from Matt the Unseated, who's a researcher from Canada that kind of researches a lot of ties. So he wants to know if you're a Mason at all. He seems quite close to the crown as well from his research and affiliation. So are you a
Am I a
Freemason yourself?
Mason?
Yeah.
No, I'm just a Native American Indian that grew up with a lot of strong old men before. I work with some of the what they call the longhouse, and some of I take directions from the clans mothers. But at the end of the day, you know right from wrong. That's what it is. When we talk about masonhood and everything like that, no, I don't believe in that aspect of it. That's a form of control, and you have to follow what is that 12 laws or whatever the hell it is that they have. But I was almost what do you call? I met a lot of Masons back in Edmonton here, 101st and 97th as well too, when they're trying to indoctrinate me back in 2013. I said no, but I understand what they were trying to do, especially with the shrines and what do you call in Fort Saskatchewan. A lot of these people, that old people that a lot of people don't understand. There's signs all over the city. There's signs of understanding. There's a lot of drywall companies and a lot of construction companies that play the public, saying that this is who they are. Here's their bid, and they're all on a big form. Okay, this is how much it is. This is how much it is. It's a game. You think that businesses, they're just going to give money out to everybody because you earned it? No, it's not what you know. It's who you know in the city. A lot of times, by understanding who you know and everything, especially with Native American politics, just like Perry Bellegarde, he's a part of that system with the World Economic Forum. People don't know that. And, Kurt Reese, he has some documentation that goes back to 2014 and 15 when he left the Rangers, Canadian Rangers, and they were trying to buy him off. Perry Bellegarde's name was on there as well too. So you see how they are, and that's why we just have to follow our heart and understanding. We just have to follow the truth of who you are. And that's why people say, you're Mason, how do you know so much? Well, it's because it's just truth. You just have to sit there and open your eyes. You have to see the policies of, what do you call, Stephen, whatever, Harper. And then you look at Justin Trudeau, how he killed the pipeline. You look at all these things of what's going on with World Economic Forum and UNDRIP, why they're trying to take 203 nations territories with in BC with 50 First Nations votes over there. It's unceded territory in BC, 95% of it. What's happening at Wet'suwet'en? They're giving eviction notices with the RCMP because they're saying that the king is going to take over that land now. So you start looking at all these things and you start realizing the truth. It is just righteousness, is good versus evil. That's all it is, and that's all people have to understand.
100%. A few more of your connections, if maybe you can explain. So Matt is asking, isn't Adrien aligned with Asmin? They're led by Zane people, aka Wabisika Mukwa, Knights of Malta, and support UNDRIP. So are you aligned with Asmin? I'm not even sure who that is.
To be honest with you, I don't even know who Asmin is. I got asked that question before too. And I said, no, I come directly from my elders in the Longhouse, especially the 11 elders in Saskatchewan as well too, from the Cree Nation. I know my grandfather tried to fight for, what do you call, for human rights in 1984 with Jim Sinclair. And we understand that it was a racial divide back then, but now it was the time. Jim Sinclair made a great statement last time. He says, what did he say at the table there when he was talking to Brian Maroney and all these people? He says, sure, I may be gone, but my people will be back, he said. And he also understood, and all of them understood this. What is happening to us will be happening to you. And we'll watch it when it happens. And this is why we're back here. We're back here to have these negotiations at the table. But at the same time, too, we also have to have this distinction that Canada has fallen. We all know that. Canada has fallen. It's bleeding out. The only problem is nobody understands. You see, I got asked by Maverick News yesterday, what is the answer? The answer is we have to get away from the Commonwealth. We have to get away from the Commonwealth no matter what. What did the king say? He said, we have to have vast military presence within all the countries, far surpassing the GDP growth for, to get everybody aligned with what? Because of climate change. Climate change is bullshit. I mean, 1970s, they were saying the incoming, ice age. In 1990s, they were saying global warming. Now it's climate change.
Acid rain, there was acid rain, there was Y2K, there's all these things. They create these narratives to keep people afraid in order for them to give up their power to these almighty forces that are going to, supposedly protect them. But all we see, it's more enslavement that they've been giving us and squeezing everybody to the point where, people are starting to feel hopeless.
You're right. And you know what? We are not voting for these policies that are happening. They're just doing it. And I'll say it straight off. Chris Guy should have won. And I'll say that. But they're not going to have him win. Nobody's going to have him win. Nobody is going to have anybody that goes against the agenda win. They will not have that happen. Because that will break everything. So the only way to win is to step outside of the box, because that is their system. They made it. It's finely tuned. They have trillions of dollars in think tanks of how to make it happen. The only way what they don't have control over is women and men. That's why they control the media. That's why John F. Kennedy got assassinated. This is why they control the carbon tax. Isn't it funny that we dropped a lot of money, like a lot of our, Danielle Smith tried to save as much as he can with the gas, but not only that, at July 1st now, the spike of gas went up. So it really didn't do nothing. It just redirected money somewhere else. That's all it is.
To charge people more money on gas when they give all of the oil and gas companies all the subsidies, all the write-offs where they don't pay anything. They're the one who created this problem, because there was a lot of alternative energies, there was a lot of alternative fuels that they could have been using, and now they're saying that all these cars and gas is what's destroying the environment. But yet the oil companies get subsidies, and now they're charging everybody at the pumps in hopes that that's somehow going to, by them government getting more money, is going to help the climate, when they give $5 billion to Ukraine for war, where they give $50 million to Africa for gender studies. They take the money from the people and they give it to these insane places, and then they however, they get their cut from the money that they're given to all these places, so they benefit, while all of the people in the corporations like of Canada all lose, because that's all it is, that system. And you're right about, the sandbox. The whole entire sandbox is filthy and corrupted, and to the point that every grain of sand is poison. And we need to dump out the sandbox in order for us to come out and play freely again. Another question about your ties. Matt was asking if you're aligned with J.D. Anderson, the Freemason who's been knighted and knows King Charles personally and friends with him. Do you know J.D. Anderson?
I know J.D. Anderson, and I'm going to tell you guys something, and in case anybody's listening to this as well too. When I did my ceremony over here 7 years ago, when we blessed that flag, they gave me 6 stones. And one of the things that I've always said when I went over there and I did a ceremony over there, I said one of the things that my elders told me. They said this: Adrien, make certain, this is from them, do not do ceremony with the man that shook hands with a hand of power, who shook hands with somebody with power. And I told Tracy Bone and a lot of people there, and Sharon at the same time too. I went right to Sharon. I said, I'm supposed to meet the woman of the house first. That was the clanswoman. I had to give her little gift from my nation. And then I looked at these women that were around J.D. Anderson, and I said, has he shook hands with the hand of power? And they said, I don't know. They looked at their paper. They looked at their video. And underneath J.D. Anderson's videos, he did shake hands with Prince Charles at the time, to be warned. And I told J.D., I cannot do ceremony with you. And he says, why not? Is because my people, my Cree Nation said, do not do ceremony with that person. And the same thing with a woman named Sipiko. She's a clanswoman up there as well too. She's what do you call, one of the, apparently in Winnipeg, a high lady there. And she was supposed to do the Thunderbird ceremony over there for the flag on top of that Winnipeg legislative building. And I said, nope, I can't, because for some reason I have a feeling. To find out a week later, she did shake hands with the Queen. You see? So these are the things that I go with my elders. So I do know J.D. Anderson. As a matter of fact, like I tell you right now, I have ties with him? No, we don't talk about these things. As a matter of fact, when I taken that flag down to the Longhouse, the first thing he said was, Adrien came with this flag from his Cree Nation, the swastika flag, the Nazi flag, and I had to stand up. I said, no, it's not a Nazi flag. It's our flag. I had to defend myself, and I got shit there for about 2 hours defending it. And at the end of the day, maybe he said that so that way they can challenge you. No. There's distinction of how you say things and how you introduce things. And that's why I said, yeah, I know J.D. Anderson, but I'll tell you right now, I have never done ceremony with him. And ceremony is very sacred to us, especially what my nation said. Do not do ceremony with the man who has shook hands with power. So hopefully that answers your question, and I'm actually glad for that question. So that way I tell people that. And it's typical too, if you're watching, that's the reason why I never did ceremony with you, is because you shook hands with the Queen. We don't shake hands with our oppressors.
100%. Yeah, so that means you're not aligned with him. You're like, that's because it seems like they're trying to make you look like you're aligned with some of these oppressors to discredit you and your movement, is what it seems like, that I'm taking it as.
That's totally fine. Like when I went down to Winnipeg, I knew I was going to meet a lot of people, and I had to be quiet. And understand. When I walked into one of the houses, the safe houses that we had to spend a night there, I see so many people separate. So many people talk about CIA, CSIS, all these people. The cops are on us. You know why that is? Is because men forgot to be men, and they don't know how to stand up that way. And I sat there. Are you scared? Why am I scared? I'm just watching who you are. As soon as I bring that flag out, a lot of people that were supposed to go to Winnipeg did not go to Winnipeg. These so-called leaders, is because when ego is involved and they don't want to be associated with a Nazi flag, then you realize that they're not leaders at all, because they don't seek the truth. They don't care about the truth. They care about their own agendas. So the reason why I went over there is not for unity at all. It's for division. So I can understand who the lions are and who the sheep are. The sheep are going to be eaten.
Who's who in the zoo you were looking for?
Exactly. So I already kind of knew a lot of people. I know who the clan mother is to one of the 3 top guys are. And I know that she's a part of the NDP, propaganda machine. And that's why a lot of our 643 nations are bought underneath that. 31 nations got paid $130 million for what? To play with UNDRIP and World Economic Forum. So it's heavily infiltrated. And I'm the only one that's able to say it. And I said, pretty soon I'm going to start dropping fucking names, no offense. But I just need to make certain, under a lot of other things that I have these meetings for, I have to make certain that I am 100% right, because if I don't come in truth, they're going to eat me alive. So that's why I have to make certain that whatever I go through, from my perspective, and I'll say it from my perspective, this is what's going on. It's all colluded. The trucker convoy, there's a lot of it has been colluded. They needed that to corral all their heroes in Alberta, because everybody was running around like a cat, like a whole herd of cattle, not knowing where to go. And how they corral them is they'll make one party, the Yellow Vest movement, down to Wexit, and after that the Freedom Convoy, because they knew this is the first time that they're going to instill the Emergency Act to usher in UNDRIP. That's the only way they can do it. They had to take away certain laws. And that was all designed for a good reason. See, these think tanks, they already know what they're going to do. Independence Party crashed because they got infiltrated. And I know these guys, and they're good men, but they didn't think that their party would ever be infiltrated. Now, Pastor Art is going to be, he's sentenced, or what's going to happen in August 9th, but I'm going to be meeting with him in a good way. And I hope that me and him could come together and we both rise that freaking flag, because at the end of the day, what happens to me and my cultural freedoms is going to happen to all Christians across the land. So we have to pretend, we have to stop pretending that they're not after everybody. We have to understand that they're after every single person, and it's Native Americans too. Sooner or later, they're going to cut your braids off again in your schools. They're going to make you municipalities like they did in Australia. And guess what? As soon as you decide to sell your land, or if you get married and then you lose your lot, you're only Native American, treating Native American to your land that you hold. And if you lose that lot, then you ain't no more than, let's just say, the white man, because then he has to work for every single thing, but then he's losing too. So therefore, you're indoctrinated into a system you never wanted to be in. If that makes sense.
100%. They're forcing everybody into this with no other choice. Matt's asking, I'm actually just curious, if there is an original way to show the swastika, or if the Nazis inverted its direction. Many cultures have it drawn differently and called something different. Maybe you can explain your thoughts on that.
The Crees, the elders believe that he has taken the swastika from the Native Americans. We don't ever use that unless there's something to be said. We don't ever bring that symbol out only for prayer and ceremony. At the same time, too, what he has done, it's not about an inversion. A lot of people think that he inverted it and that's what it made a bad sign and everything. No, he has taken that symbol, the Thunderbird symbol, and remember what we said: it's either blesses you or destroys you. And that symbol and that man, the World War was 80 million, I believe. That's how many people died. That symbol destroyed that nation, and it was because of the fact of a power, struggle. And so that's what we believe. So the symbol belongs to everybody, not just me. It belongs to you guys. The stars, we don't own the stars. We don't own them, but we know the teachings of it. You guys used to have a symbol back in the day, but this is where he stole it from. And when he perversed it and put the golden eagle, because remember, he got that golden eagle from where? Rome. What's the salute? That was a Roman salute. But at the same time, too, he's taken that symbol of cultural significance and put it on there, because the Thunderbird, the folklore of the Thunderbird, it's either it blesses you or destroys you, because it only looks at white and black, the truth and the lie. You can't have a gray zone. You can't have a gray zone, so that's what it does. You have to be truthful in that aspect or it'll destroy you. So that's why I say the Thunderbird is also the Thunderbird spirit of telling the truth. And one of we believe is Yahshua was like the Thunderbird. That's why he destroyed his own people's temple, because they were lying about him. It's the same kind of thing, the same ideology, the same understanding. So that's what it is, the truth of a man, the truth of going forward, the truth of the government. And I also want to say this: Canada could solve its problem in 2 to 5 years. We can have economical viability. We can have power in this country if we wanted to. We could, if we just stopped playing this politics and we came together as strong men, and we all unified under one power of understanding. We could make this country one of the most powerful countries in the world if we had real leaders. But they're not here to save Canada. They're here to destroy Canada. And that's why that symbol is here. Just exactly what happened in Germany. That symbol means a lot. And if you understood what it really means through all these cultures, and you really deeply looked into your own culture, what it meant to your guys' pagans back in the day, you'll be surprised. There's power behind it. That makes sense?
Yeah, Matt had another question about your picture that you sent us with you pulling your jacket apart. So he says, Adrien is grabbing his coat in the photo. Grabbing the coat vest and pulling apart is a Masonic penalty sign, illustrating the penalty of obligation, tearing open the chest. Did you know that? Is that, that what you're doing in that is actually a Freemason symbol, hence why I think he's asking so many of these questions for you to explain if
Which
you are connected with the Masons.
which picture? I don't know which one he's
I think
talking
it's
about.
that one with the white. So you sent me. It's the white shirt, and you've got your hands pulling your vest apart. It's the black vest that you have. It's here.
Oh, this like this? Oh, that shirt, that part right there.
Yeah, you got
I'm
a
a
vest with a white button up shirt, and you're pulling the vest apart. So he was just wondering because it resembles a Freemasonic symbol, and that's a picture that you're using. So he was just wanting to know what connection, if there's any, to that to the Freemasons with that symbol, what you were trying to portray.
I'm a clothing designer since 1998 to 2001. I was going to go for trying to be a dentist at that time. So a part of that was photography, fashion photography. So fashion photography is it's not my thing, but I like landscape photography, right? So I do a lot of light photography when it comes down to using filters. I own a Canon, and this is just to answer your question. I had taken probably about 60 pictures that day, and it was this is a light, and at the same time, it shows power. I did not mean it to be any other way, but that was, if that's what it is, then I guess it makes people think. I don't know why I picked that picture, but it is a beautiful picture. I thought so. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know much about their symbols and signs, so I didn't see that. But he's a deep researcher in the occult knowledge, the
Yeah.
Freemasons, and so that's why when he sees different people doing different gestures, he wants to question if that is an actual symbol that represents that thing, or if it's just a random coincidence, which it seems like you're saying.
Well, I didn't know, but thank you for that. I didn't know I was doing that, but if that's what it is, I don't know anything about the occult aspect of things. So
He was saying J.D. Anderson is a Mason and a Crown agent who you are close with. Yes, he is friends with King Charles.
I'm not
So,
close with him.
okay. I think that's what you explained. Maybe the question came when
Yeah.
when you came. So today I heard you sent me that interview yesterday with the Maverick News. I ended up falling asleep watching it, so I watched probably the first hour. I think it was a 3-hour show you did with them. I'm not sure if you were there for the
Yeah.
whole 3 hours, but
Yeah.
yeah, and they were saying that you had talked to some police, some other authorities. They have called you because you all wanted to bring that flag for the Canada Day celebration out on Parliament Hill, and they were warning you not to, that you would be arrested or something if you did bring out that flag. So maybe you could tell us about those phone calls you received, and then also what is, if anything, is still planned, if you can say anything, right? Just say whatever you can share if there is stuff being planned that you don't want to share yet, for a surprise or whatever. But just let us know about the phone calls, about today, whatever you can share with us.
Well, the phone calls came in. It's the same thing that happened in Winnipeg. I got phone calls. There was Thunder Bay, Ontario. There was Regina, Winnipeg, and also the police liaison as well too, and CSIS. I had to take a picture of the first flag and send it over there because I had to respect the law, and I had to say this is Section 35. So they understood, and they could not stop it. Then you know what I mean. So that was that. As for what's happening in Ottawa right now, we do have people out there, and we have to exercise their rights, because if we don't exercise their rights, then your newscast could be shut down as well too. The freedom of speech underneath what do you call Bill C-18. So we look at these things, and the only people that could actually challenge this, whether people believe it or not, is the Native Americans, because of our cultural significance to the symbol. The same with like I said, We want to be able to have our white brothers and sisters be able to say this. So I'm going to be straight up with you guys. It's you guys that are getting ostracized and getting kicked down to the point where, you know, it is what it is. You guys are a new minority now. You guys cannot say nothing anymore. And that's what we want. If we are going to be equal and we're going to stand side by side, then we have to give you back your tongue on this land that was Native American land, and we have the authority and the right to say so. We want everybody to be strong. We want everybody to be equal. And yes, there are some things that are happening in Ottawa right now. And I know that 31 of those flags have been apprehended so far, or have not made it down, or probably got stopped at the post offices or something that they are probably going through, because everybody's still waiting for about a week. But then now we have other plans that we're going through. I put it in the hands of the Longhouse, the clan mothers, and the people that are there with the Crazy Indian Brotherhood. They know what has to be done. It has to be respectful, it has to be peaceful. At the same time, too, you have to look at those police officers in the eye and say, with honesty, you know, not against the law, or because we can play the law thing, but we have to look at the heart of men and say, is this the Canada you want to be? You know what I mean?
So someone was asking if you are going there today to Parliament Hill with the flag.
I'm going down to the whistle stop. I'm gonna go over there and meet some people over and talk, you know, and go meet some beautiful people that stood up and made this happen, because they're the ones that actually, like, I give them utmost respect to the Canadians here that actually made this stage, because without them, they knew that something is wrong. Those are the real men and women that are fighting for grandchildren, and that's what I'm here for as well too.
So a big part of what's happening to the Native Indians, and you don't mind me calling you an
No,
Indian,
you
right?
just
Like,
call me
because
North American Indian, because that's what I am. Yeah, North American Indian.
North American Indian.
Yeah.
What's happening to them, and the reason why they were enslaved and maybe still are enslaved, is because the chiefs have been bought and paid for. I've talked to lots of different, North American Indians that have said that the whole council members seem to be very corrupted and are holding the North American Indians down. Could you please share your thoughts on the leaders of your own people, and why they side with the colonialists, the money god, opposed to wanting to really free your people?
It's not them, it is the system. They are good men and women that try to do the very best they can, but it is indoctrinated by that system called the Indian Act. The Indian Act is what made Canada, especially with residential schools. It was instilled. Do I blame the chief and councils? For the most part, no. But yes, I do, in the same way too. You see, when they have that, they don't know anything better. They're indoctrinated into a reservation system. They are impoverished. There's poverty. It's just like when you feed the bears, guess what happens? They become what do you call well, they depend on the system. Now imagine that since 1951, we're not a lot of the reservations till 1951. 1978, it was illegal for us to even have a sun dance, round dance, or anything. They destroyed our culture, and we had this complex in the school system and everywhere else that the white man was superior race. Every day at 8:45, we had to pledge allegiance to the Queen and also do a prayer under God. You see, so these things are tactics that was used to us. And then if we don't know any better, let's just the biggest thing you could ever be is a chief and council in a reservation. That's all they ever taught us. So now we become the new Indian agents without even knowing, because of our leaders, and all of them have been separated. So now we become these people. We are the new Indian agents. So when you really think about it, I don't blame these chief and councils for who they are, because I tell you right now, when they try to create businesses in the reservation, like in 2008, when they had that bailout with Dodge, Chevy, and Ford, they needed a new place to put their factories, because at that time everything was crashing. The United States was crashing with their depression. where these truckers in the United States had to ship all their vehicles from one state to the other so they wouldn't have to pay taxes, and they were lenient for so many months. We had the solution to say, if Bombardier could come over here, Dodge and Chev, you can build factories and reservations. That would be awesome, because then we'll have economical viability and our people can grow. But here's the funny thing. It's illegal for us to have those businesses on a reservation. It's illegal.
Is that the Indian Act that makes
Yeah.
it illegal for
Yeah.
you to have corporations and businesses on indigenous land, on native land?
Yep.
So in turn, they take these factories, they take these businesses, and they put them into third world countries. So instead
Yes.
of helping your people, instead of helping the corporation of Canada, supposedly the country of Canada, they send that off in order to keep you and your people, our people here, everybody down. That's pretty crazy. Well, doing that this is even illegal and nobody's challenging it.
Well, here's the funny thing. They believe that if we had economic viability and we started charging taxes on our land to these businesses, which are a lot cheaper, in 25 years, we would have enough money to buy back Canada from the private state. That's why they're scared. You see? So that's why they made it illegal. And then when you're a chief in council, when you're in parliament or an MP 1 year and you get fired, at least you have a retirement savings fund or a pension, right? Over here, they don't have that in reservations. They do not have that. So what happens is, even if they try to do anything, businesses, you name it, the whole 9 bits, guess what? They'll stop you. And you have to play that narrative that they have in the Indian Act. So if you decided to do anything down the line and you try to challenge the system, they're going to take away your funding. So what happens to the people? It's a tough situation for chief and councils to make. So therefore, we can't do nothing. We have to play ball. And guess what? At the end of the day, it divides people into segregation, to selfishness. So that's why they steal money after a while. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. So unless a North American Indian gets elected to an actual House of Parliament, if they get to that, then they do get a pension, right? So,
Yep.
but if they're elected to the band, then there is no pension. Hence why money is such a big deal for, the people that are elected in that way, and then maybe they're easily swayed for the colonialist agenda.
Yeah, that's why how Perry Bellegarde made it where he was. Like, I was making his jackets one time. I was making a nice, beautiful beaded jacket, and I was talking to him about policies and everything. We would like to change things, and I even talked to him about Lawrence Joseph when Lawrence Joseph came to Big River Reservation, and he got chased off by his own uncle, mind you that. He said, why aren't you helping the people? Because we had a chance in 1994 to actually be independent, which means we would not take no money from the government at all. We wanted our own real sovereignty, which is a country within a country. And this was talked about with the FSIN. And then Lawrence Joseph went to every single nation, said, you're not ready for it. You're not ready for it. If that was the case, all businesses across Saskatchewan would have been open doors to bringing in corporations, and that would have been way better than the funding that we have. As a matter of fact, it would have gave us, our people, back our independence. This is the same thing that they did in the 60s and 70s when they bring the crack epidemic with the black population, because at that time, the black population was starting to be really strong and powerful and fighting for free rights. And guess what happened after that? Crack epidemic came, and now 80% of all these families do not have fathers. That's what they do. It's a system. They don't want to give away power. So this is why when we look at the reservation standpoint, what do they do to the reservations now? Most people think that the cities are riddled with methamphetamine and fentanyl. It's really bad here. Go to a reservation. It's a normality now. Even the elders, some of the elders are on methamphetamine, and nobody talks about it.
So the drug epidemic on the reservation was alcohol, and now it's a drug epidemic, which was obviously, introduced to your people for a reason. I believe not just because that's what you didn't have nothing better else to do with your time. I think this was potentially forcibly introduced to you and your people to keep your people drugged and drunk and drugged and alcohol, so you don't stand in your power and reclaim back, like your symbols and signs, and unify the people, like I think we should.
Exactly. It's still systemic racism, whether people believe it or not. And they lie to the media. They're saying, "Oh, we're helping the Native Americans, everything." But I challenge everybody to even go to a reservation and see what's going on. Yeah, they gave us the tools to destroy ourselves, and they gave us our own leaders to destroy ourselves. Yet if Canadian government really gave a shit about our reservations, well, bring in the Transparency Act, bring in a universal electoral act, a judicial system that we can actually follow. But what Justin Trudeau did was made deals with all these nations when he got in and said, if I get in, you don't have to worry about the Transparency Act, which means more corruption. And as soon as the the COVID-19 shots came in, he started funding every single reservation. Where did all those PlayStation 5s went on Christmas? They went to the truckloads to the reservations and saying, if you take your shot, we'll give you a PlayStation 5. That's what they've been doing. And they were making certain that if you left the reservation, you're not coming back for 2 weeks, even to go get groceries, unless you take that shot. They were getting heavily funded just to make certain everybody got that shot. So when you think about it, everything is connected with with corruption, and at the same time too with achievement councils, and it's getting even more indoctrinated with the World Economic Forum. Not only that, with UNDRIP, Calgary and Edmonton here, they had World Economic Forum here, and they had how many nations over there as well too. They paid $10,000 or $3,000. I can't really say how much per plate, but to be there, you're selling out your grandchildren. They already knew the agenda.
For that way from our YouTube, we started back on YouTube again. We've had 3 channels deleted off of YouTube. We had over 100,000 hours watched on YouTube, all gone and deleted. But says this is all happening because of the use of the legal name, and the legal name we think is ours is the mark of the beast. Do you accept it? Time to choose. Says this is the hardest thing for people to accept, although it's fact, and the legal name is the only thing that goes with you from cradle to grave. So what do you know about this dead entity, the straw man, the all caps legal name that they want us as, in order to have authority over us, because we're a dead entity and we're not actual free sovereign men and women?
Has a lot to do with your birth certificate and accepting certain things. You have to be, when I say natural law, I mean it's taking back your identity. Underneath the corporation, that's why I tell you right now, the reason why they have so much power over us is because of our birth certificates, and not only that, our social insurance numbers. And we are nothing but a number. Just like these corporations in the United States, when they're talking about the Jewish conquest of these businesses, they're not entities no more. They're nothing but numbers, and they have been given assignments from some kind of, I don't know, to push this gay agenda. Only because the more they push the gay agenda, the more it ties into people's angers and feelings. So I get what they're talking about, but the truth is we've always been alive, but they want to make certain that they control us underneath what did they say, the Queen Mom system, back when it was a 40-60 split in Canada. And how Hudson Bay Company has formatted into what it was, and then they started working with those Kavarian, I don't want to say it, but those, let's just say
Khazarian mafia. We can say
exactly.
anything. You say what you want here. These parasites, I don't mind talking about who's who in the zoo, because people need to be aware of it.
Yeah.
If we're actually able to stop or become, evolve into a better place than what this slave beast system, that they've been ramming down everybody's throats. So you can say what you want here, brother.
So that's exactly what I was saying. We are all underneath the contract called the birth certificate and the Queen Mom. And then after that, this is why they're going to be having this credit system right away. This what do you call this? They're going to try to destroy all the money, and they're going to try to be in the credit system with this, the laws of fast taxes right away. As soon as you've done something, it goes directly over there. They want to make certain that they have complete control with the COVID-19 as well too. They talk about these micro whatever, these computer chips inside of them. And here's the funny thing about it too. This is what I find really interesting. You don't have to have your phone. You don't have to have nothing. As long as you're taking that jab, and because of these smart camera systems and you are the receptor, they'll know who the hell you are based on your DNA alone. So this was talked about, and I'm not talking about being a conspiracist or anything like that, but it all ties into the number that you have as well too. So I don't know. I can go in depth with that, but I think everybody understands certain things, and I don't want to sound crazy to the people that are coming here, but I'm just talking about spirituality. Spirituality of the human body needs to rise, and men need to be men, and women need to be women in order to save this country.
You don't sound crazy, and even Kate here just commented, Adrien is very knowledgeable and knows his history. You do have a lot of knowledge, and what we are here, the missing link, is about finding any missing links about you or the world around us that you want to share. So are there any other missing links that you feel that people don't know that maybe you want to share here today to all the people that are watching and that are going to watch this on replay?
You go Google a guy named John Doe, and you put John D-O-W on YouTube, right? John D-O-W. And this was made maybe 8 years ago, 7 years ago. It got passed down to me 3 years ago, but it has a lot to do with the Ghost Dance prophecy. It has a lot to do with the Hopi prophecy. It has a lot to do with the Rainbow Warrior prophecy. It has a lot to do with the biblical prophecy. All these prophecies align as to what's now. And there's a thing called, I think it's called Lighthouse or Star. I forgot. It used to be a computer system that the United States military used to use. And what they notice is that from 2012, you have 12 to 14 years to change everybody into this thing, because they always know one thing. This computer, it would put variables inside of it, and they used to use that as politics. They would always use that as to, if we do this, this will happen. They always try to have this outcome as to what would happen. But up until 2012, there's always one outcome, that the elites would lose. They would lose because of the fact of the rise of of social media. And this is why, like I said, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, they're going to try to stop social media right away here. And at that time, I don't know why, but I was thinking because it was the rise of social media that people would actually be connected, because before then, we wouldn't be having this discussion. It was only the media that would control the newspapers, and we used to be wagon burners. So, you know what I mean? It was their narrative back in the day. But now that we all became connected, that is their next step. That's why they're trying to take over the computer system with metaverse and everything like that. They made deals with Zuckerberg already. They already knew that if they're going to allow this much power over here, and they're making all these court cases, then they have to be affiliated with what do you call social media. So therefore, it is being done with the Jews and everything, or the powers that be, to take over these things. So that's why everything is changing right now with Bill C-18 and Bill C-11, So that's what it is.
Question for you from Matt. What does Adrien think of the 8th fire prophecy?
That happens before the 7th fire. The 7th fire prophecy, a lot of people say it already happened. But here's the thing. You have to look at the Wampum Belt and the Six Nations and theirs. They have more of a history of their understanding with the Great Law of Peace. And then you're looking at the 7th prophecy from the Blackfoot, the Crees as well too. We all align, but the problem is we never used to come together as much as we used to. Now we're starting to come together. The 8th fire prophecy, before that, there's a direction that people have to take. It's either you take natural law, or you go to your doom with man-made law, because they're going to destroy you, or they'll keep you in that system. I only walk with the 7th fire prophecy and the 8th fire prophecy, but before that happens, and everybody knows, in every single You know, whatever happens in history, there's always has to be a war. And right now we're facing a spiritual war. And this is what I'm talking about, the spiritual aspect of things. You know the truth in your heart. We forgot how to communicate with our spirituality, and I'm talking about sexuality. I'm not talking about the physical elements of sexuality, like whatever. I'm talking about the sexuality as men versus men, talking about who we are as men, like the aspect of it. Woman and woman, talking about that, really talking about intimate, deep things, not perverse things, but who we are as strong men, who we are as strong women. We forgot to be humble. We forgot to be what you call you know, just open booked. Right now, this system separated us as men, where we don't even know our neighbors. We don't talk about real things anymore like we used to in the 80s, when the kids used to play around these things. We used to know what time we had to go back. We used to know real things. But now today, it separated us from the most sacred, and that's the sacred teachings of communication. So when we're talking about the 8 fire prophecy, before that happens, something has to happen, and that has a lot to do, from our point of view, is from the Thunderbird that has to come over here and cause destruction before the great law of peace comes.
Do you know who Dave Chorcheny is? Chorcheny. He says, "What does he think of David Cord?" I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I know. I can see that. I don't know who that is.
Do you think that the Canadian flag represents slavery? Is that a slave flag then?
1927 to 1931, in Nova Scotia, there was the Ku Klux Klan over there. On the right side, right above their heart, said KKK, and on the right side was the maple leaf flag. Before the New Jack flag, you know, before it was taken over, it became that very symbol on what do you call the flag. Many people don't know that. All you have to do is look at chapter 12 on that, on their book, you know. And what people don't also understand is that after World War II, we had the largest migration of Ukrainian neo-Nazis in Canada, and 50,000 went to the United States. So there's an understanding. They all come together, and that's what happens. And that's why we believe the 3 crown steps are put on top of that Canadian flag. There's 3 crowns, and those are the 3. You know, it goes like that. The 3. You know what I mean? That's what we believe. But that's as far as we can go with that. I mean, we can get into a new thing, but I believe that is a symbol of masonry, and it tells the world that's where, you know, white supremacists are. You know, this is the hub of a lot of racism in the world, and we are supposed to be the beacon of hope and freedoms. You know, and then I'm talking about that in the aspect of governance, and this is very evident is what they're doing to the Native Americans.
Do you think Canada should maybe change it from the maple leaf to a pot leaf? And then maybe we could, you know, like that, or your youth wanting the Canadian flag to be, you know, the flag that you're, pulling out the, what did you call your flag?
The Thunderbird?
The Thunderbird flag. Like, is that would be a symbol of Canada, or is that a symbol
No.
for North American Indians? So it's not just a Canadian symbol, like, you know, or do you think that, you know, because do you believe that Canada should be a country again and not a corporation? And like, you know, what's your thoughts on some possible solutions? I know you're bringing a lot of education, and you believe that, you know, bringing the Thunderbird flag back will bring a lot of unity, but what are some things maybe you've envisioned as some solutions on how we could, you know, take our lives back from the slave system that we're in, and, you know, work harmoniously with each other, taking care of each other, instead of all the money being siphoned out to all these criminal, corporate, slimy, parasitic scumbag bankers that seem to want to squeeze everybody with every single policy that they're putting into place?
Well, first and foremost, I don't want the Thunderbird flag to be a symbol for Canada, because that is a cultural. That is actually like you're calling on something what people will deem as some people and some tribes deem as is evil. Some people believe it's something, but it's only to be called in ceremony a lot of times. You know what I mean? So that cannot be the flag there, because then we don't want to create war with anybody. That's one. As for, what to happen in Canada, we have to separate our ties from the monarchy. We have to look back at the Micmac and those people back in the day with the Mohawks and everything before the Republic of the United States actually happened. Democracy that was written and everything, the laws that were written came from Native American laws. That's how the United States was founded. That's how they had it. They written their Constitution based on Native American laws and principles, and that's why there was a great peace there before everything happened. So we have to look back at the ancient teachings of how that is done. Not the America we know today, not the infiltrated America, but as rights of free men and free women. We have to look at that. We have to bring a council of everybody from different cultures and put something back into the pot. When we have a peace pipe ceremony, it's because we're able to sit there and leave our egos at the door and come with our hearts. And that's how we have to heal Canada again. We have to come back with the ancient teachings of women. Because one of the things that we noticed a long time ago, women were the head of our clans quite a bit of times. And when we did the treaties and everything like that, it was I'll say it loosely, the white man. He said they never wanted women at the table of peace. They never did, because their women were in burqas at the time, because Christians were in burqas at the time. They were in burqas. They were not allowed to speak. They were not allowed to write. They were not allowed to do anything. They were enslaved in their own system. Our women were above men. You see, so it had a lot to do with the sacred teaching of sexuality and feminism, because they had the heart of knowledge. They're the ones that taught us men how to be warriors and how to taught us to respect women and the environment. Because at the end of the day, when we go to a sweat, the sweat itself is the womb of Mother Nature to purify us and rebirth us again. And that's what we forgot. We forgot the ancient teachings of spirituality in the true form of our heart. If we do not fix this, we can never fix Canada. If we don't fix this, we can never fix our relationships. If we don't fix this, then we have no bearing to talk about politics, because politics in this world over here is nothing but corruption, and it's all about money. But over here, when you fix this, then you look at that, then you're looking at the children's future. That's why I say in 2 to 5 years, we can rebuild Canada again in the truest form. It's not about money. It's about prosperity for all when we think about this. Because we know the truth. We know about racism. They divide us. We know about sexualism. We know about all these things that they divide us with, religious things. We are supposed to come together at a potluck. We're supposed to come together in truth and honesty. But no, if that Canadian flag, we could burn it and put it into something that all of us come together with, with symbolatry that represents all of us in a good way. But that Thunderbird flag, I say no. That's a powerful flag for a reason. That's a
sacred ceremonial flag that you just want to be able to freely show anytime that you want, because of how sacred it is to you. And there shouldn't be anyone in a free land that isn't allowed to show something that's sacred to them. You should be freely allowed to bring out that flag anytime you want, and no one should be able to stop you, because it's not a symbol of hate. It's not a symbol of division. It's not a Nazi flag. It's a flag that's sacred and ceremonial to you and your people.
It's for our people, but also your people too, and that's the thing we want to understand. It came from America. It stays in America, and whoever's in this American continent, North America, should be able to rise that too. And that symbol represents truth and wisdom. That's what it represents. The North Star on that symbol, there's a star above that. We have two flags. One is the cultural ceremonial flag with the 4 direction, with everybody coming in unity, and we have the the other one is the Thunderbird spiritual war flag. And that's a spiritual war flag, because we have to divide the lie between the truth. That's what it is. And a lot of people say it's so close to Hitler's, you know, he had it on so many pictures. Yeah. I'm not going to go, if you're going to do something, you just don't put the tip in. You have to go balls deep and take the whole damn freaking thing back. This is a direct, you know, what do you call, I'm doing this directly. I'm not going to pretend a little bit here, pretend that I'm doing it and walk away. No, we're going to go in there. We're going to take back that symbol for what it really is. And any Nazi flag that we do come across the way, we're going to take them. And like I was told at the very last, I'm going to have to take it in the middle of Canada and bury it, the Nazi symbol, because that's where it came from. So that's the reason why it's more culturally significant in the spiritual world. And that's what all of us forgot, is the spirituality. We forgot spirituality. And that is the reason why most of our families are broken. Not religion, but spirituality.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I feel the native North American Indians were attacked, is because of that spirituality and the connection to the Creator and the Mother Earth, with the knowledge of the herbs and the healings and things. But what you just talked about, how women were almost regarded higher than men. I know that, you know, the North American Indians had the matriarchy, the council of the women would appoint who the chiefs, who the leaders were. So the North American Indians, you know, the women were, their voice mattered, their voice was heard, and people listened to them. So when the colonials come and they're inverted, where men rule, women have no voice, and this is how it has been. It has been through the church, it has been through the books, it has been through their Bibles, it has been through everything, that men rule the roost. And they come across a culture of North American Indians that regard women so high. No wonder that they've looked to genocide, to destroy, to enslave, because that's inverted to their perverted system of life. And what you just said made me look at things like in a fresh way, because I didn't really see that connection. But wow, that's very powerful, just to have that knowledge out into, you know, the public, you know, showing, because, you know, they talk about all this Me Too and free women and all these rights and all that, but do they really want that? Do women really have a voice? You know, it seems like, you know, the voice now are coming from the ones that are inverted, is the ones that they want to listen to their voice, not true men, not true women, but the ones who are inverted. Seems like that's the voice that they're trying to propagate, and everybody has to just, you know, acknowledge and, you know, go along with that inverted agenda, because it is about inversion and perversion, this beast system that everybody has been, you know, sucked into.
Yes, and I wanted to say that I'm a true feminist. I'm not saying that the true form of feminism is not to take down the man. What I'm trying to say is that feminism as in the aspect of women, they're the ones that taught men to be warriors. You know, in South America, or not South America, in the United States here, we're talking about, you know, sexuality and the aspect of things in our culture. Why we regard a woman so grand and dear, and this might make sense to a lot of people underneath the aspect of natural law, not the perversion of man-made law. You see, when men were at the rutting age between their teenage years and 25, they were not allowed to marry, not just yet. They had to prove themselves, but their teachers were older women when they were at their hormonal stage between 35 and 45 years old. See, even though men had 2 or 3 wives, women had 2 or 3 husbands as well too. Sexuality was never ostracized. It was a gift from the Creator. So when that happened, when men were starting to be men, young age, the older women were the ones that taught men to be men, whether it was a physical act of sexuality, but at the end of the day, it came down to the fact that they taught them to love their culture, their elders, their children. That's why we never had sexual abuse. We never went after the young woman at all. Only at the time when we were told that we are strong men, that we were able to go hunting, we were able to prove ourselves as warriors, then is the time that we are able to take our first wives. And then the second wives, if they choose, the third wives, and the wives would also be able to marry outside, because that was, we understood that jealousy and all these other things were sins. We had to try to get through them, and by getting through them means being honest to our partners, being truthful to our partners. See, we never believed that sexuality was owned by man or woman. It was ours to begin with. So that's the thing. So when you look at the woman aspect of things, what's happening today? What is happening today to the women? Most women are lost. They don't have a true connection to their husbands. They do not, because a lot of it is done by the bureaucracy of money and security. So that's why I always say to a lot of people, you want a great relationship, let her be who she needs to be, spiritually and sexually. Does not mean that it is. The biggest problem with most of relationships today in a 10-year span, 80% of them are going to die or be destroyed, and it has everything to do with adultery, because everybody forgot the secret art of communication with the sexual form, the spiritual form, the most intimate spirit that we have. And that's why most people are scared to even be who they are, and why we are not growing to the higher state of consciousness and spirituality, is because we're not able to be truthful. And these are the things that the woman taught us. That's why we would die for our women and our children and our elders before, because we regarded them as the greatest teachers that we had as, as warriors. Hopefully that makes sense.
100%. We have a question here earlier about someone wanting to know why you're in Alberta and not, it says here, why are you in Alberta when your clan's mothers are on the front lines in Ottawa? Who is your leader, Adrien?
Okay, that's a good question. The women have to lead it. It was told that the women have to lead it. It's because they are mothers. They have more power than me. Because they understand what they're going through with the kids. I can say a lot of things over there, and I wanted to go over there myself, but I have to go over here to go talk with these people over here for a reason. When that was announced over there that they wanted to fly that flag, and we're talking about with 11 elders over here, it says no. In the Oka crisis, who are the leaders there? It was the woman. At Standing Rock and North Dakota pipeline, who is the woman leaders over there? It was the woman. The problem with our men is they're sleeping, and the woman knew exactly what they have to do. They said, no, we are mothers, and the men over there have to protect the crazy Indian Brotherhood. So that is the reason why women are stronger than men in that aspect. My education has to go over here for a reason, because there's a stage over there that has to be set. I have my own where I have to go. And they talk about who are our leaders. You are the leaders. I am the leader. Everybody is the leader if they follow their spirituality. But the problem is nobody knows what's next, because you can't beat the bureaucracy of Canada underneath this law. You cannot beat the bureaucracy underneath this law at all. It is set up against you. So when I say, who are your leaders? When I ask the leaders, when all these people at the trucker convoy, it is a political vote. And when you're playing that game, we already know you're not going to win. You already know what happened to the Ford brothers. They already got bought. One guy died by cancer, and the other guy is a $24 million man. So when I look at it, the women are the leaders. The women are the leaders, and anybody who has a voice is the leader, just like you or anybody else that actually speaks the truth. So when you talk about leaders, no, the leader is the aspect of truth inside of you. That is the leader, and that's what you must follow. It's not the bureaucracy that people have to be behind things. It's just telling the truth. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, Shelly's comment here says, so you're letting them get arrested. So if you just heard what he just said, is that everybody is their own leader. So they're choosing to do what they're doing in Ottawa. He doesn't choose for them. He's not letting them do anything.
I talked to them yesterday and the other day, and I said, it wouldn't be to know, I have to say this. I told them this. I have to ask you to refrain from what you're doing. I have to ask them to refrain from everything. They said no. And I'll tell you why I'm not going to. is because I sat at the Parliament building for 2 nights trying to get my voices heard when my children were taken away. Because of a lot of little issues. All these, we have a $42 billion lawsuit right now with the Canadian government in regards to our children getting taken. You may never understand this because you are just a man and I'm a woman. You do not understand the pain that we have to go through as mothers. So they said that at the Longhouse, and they asked them too. And then they said, this is all on you. You know that. No, we have to rise as mothers, because if 2 years from now, if we don't, and they take our children away, and the white children away, and the black children away, and the yellow children away, and there's nothing that we stood up, it takes the heart of a woman, not a man. It takes the heart of a woman to speak for us, not a man. Enough with this bullshit, she says. So we're going over there. So we had to sit there, and they had to do their ceremonies to do so. And I, that's why I said to the Crazy Indian Brotherhood, I had to put that call out to them, and they said that is a high honor to be a part of that. That's what they said. So hopefully you understand. It's just not what people think. It's deeper than that. It's women standing up for the future, because they are the leaders in a lot of things. And as a man, it's hard for me to sit back in a lot of things. That's why I have to go over here. Sometimes a man has to shut up and sit down. You know?
Oh, of course. I like that. So, who are these leaders, these clan mothers?
I cannot say those ones because I cannot bring them at harm. And I have to respect that too. I had to respect the women that are actually going up there. They're not, they're aunties. They like to call them saws, but they take direction from their longhouse, and they take directions from their clan mothers, and they take directions as for how the ceremony has to go for themselves. And I had to stay away from that conversation.
Okay, so this is Matt's comment, and you don't have to answer, obviously, for their safety, but he's saying, are those women in Ottawa, Candace, Searle, Trina, Nancy, and others, those are not real clan mothers? What's your thoughts when someone says something like this?
I don't talk to those women. I take direction from my elders in Saskatchewan. I take direction from some clan mothers that we had to vet.
So there are some real clan mothers that are, aligned with, the movement, with what you're doing with the Thunderbird. You have like an alignment with a lot of people that are, North American Indians that, believe and are in line with your guys' movement.
Yes, because they believe it's time.
Awesome. What other things do you think that, people need to know about, you or your people or, this corporation, this Turtle Island that maybe we haven't talked about here yet so far?
A lot of people are going to be going back to biblical prophecy pretty soon. A lot of people are going to go start understanding the idea of what do you call it, rainbow warriors, or, they look at, when they start looking at the prophecy rock with a lot of Native Americans, especially the Hopi, the Cree prophecy, the ghost dance prophecy. And one thing I want to say to a lot of people is that your own people written some of that book, the New Testament, and some of it is what it is. We put ours on a rocks. That's what we always did. It was always going to stand the test of time. We're actually working for you guys, whether you guys believe it or not, because we're not affiliated with no political party. As a matter of fact, we would rather see them disappear.
Me too.
We'd rather see that, and then at the end of the day, you bring clanswomen, you bring women to the table. Women know better than men when it comes down to the true aspect of spirituality. And men are the ones that bring wisdom when it comes down to black and white. Right and wrong, women are the ones that are gray zone that try to work with everything, because that is their utmost power. They look at the children more than we do. They raise their children more than we do. They are the true teachers. So that's what we look at. we have to bring women to the pedestal of where they're supposed to be, not at home or sit here or whatever. I'm sure they're doing a great job, but their voices need to be heard.
Do you think it's time for the matriarchy? No more patriarchy. The matriarchy needs to come back into power once again.
Well, the thing is, they don't play politics, these women. They elect people, is what I'm saying. They elect the wisdom of men and women down the line, but they try not to, when things happen, they let them kind of figure it out as children. They have to figure it out. The only time they ever say something is when it's evil. So, as for the aspect of women, yes, they can pick their leaders. The women have to do this when it comes down to it. Sure, the population can pick the wisdom and everything like that, but it is the women that have to vet certain things because they know that their voices need to be heard for the next generations to come, especially with grandchildren, because they have something that we don't as men.
You know how women used to not have the right to vote? Could you imagine if things got inverted where men couldn't vote, that only women were allowed to vote? You know, which leaders, whether it was a man or a woman, but the women got to vote. Is that something that you would align with?
No, it's not something I would line with. I just think that women themselves would figure out a system because they know the system of their household, they know the system of their family, they know the system of protection and love and everything like that. They would write that what needs to be done. They're the ones that have the true power of spirituality, sexuality, and all these other things. They're beauty in the truest form. And all we have to do is take direction. Sometimes we may disagree, but that's a good thing about disagreeing because then true wisdom come. You see?
This is from Matt. He says, women were the medicine people and men were the warriors. Does this sound correct? Sorry, I'm
That's
an ignorant
true.
white man.
That's true. Men were the warriors, and the woman would also elect a chief and a war chief. And when it came down to politics, they elected them for a reason because they trusted them. So a lot of things would happen, and only when things happen that are evil that they would take another, a grand council of something else. So it was the woman. That's why the clanswoman right now, they are higher above the chief and councils right now, and that's why a lot of the chief and councils are getting their band offices are getting shut down in the East Coast because of corruption. The clanswoman went over there and locked it up. They said, "No, we're going to call for this. There's nothing you can do," and they own the people because of corruption. They know, right?
We have a question here from Joseph Nixon, and he says, Adrien, do you have permission from the Algonquin Grand Chief to fly your flag on their unceded lands? And if you do, what proof do you have?
Not the chief, but of a clan woman, and I'm not going to state who that person's name is because that's something else. As for the Algonquin, and when you're talking about that unceded territory, you're talking about those areas. I'm going to tell you something that we've always known. That house of power, it still rules us too. That house of power rules you, Jesse Hall. It rules everybody. That house of power is everybody's right to go protest. That house of power is everybody's right to go for ceremony. That's where the four great rivers came together, where we used to come together in peace. We would share our cultures then. But when you say that you have a superior right just because of your territory, then why don't we bring Ottawa over here? But that's not the case, is it? The truth is, everybody has the right to go over there because of this nation, just like you, Jesse, and just like Black Lives Matter and everybody else. Isn't it funny that they're raising a rainbow flag over there? But I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is the blue and the pink in that flag, which means maps.
We've had, quite a few North American Indians here on the Missing Link. We had Stuart, my house, Mayu Longhouse,
There you
here.
go. That's
He's
the
been
Stuart.
here he's been here on the Missing Link. He was telling us that, what the colonialists taught, their people was that, the North American Indians were savages. They were at war with each other, that, they were wagon burners, all these things that they tried to teach people. But he said that's not true, that he said 6,000 years ago there used to be warring tribes, but for the last 6,000 years you've lived peacefully among each other in this land. And then when the colonials came, they're the ones who caused all of the, the destruction, people to go against each other, causing all the wars, and not trying to live harmoniously with the people that were indigenous to the land at the time, but yet they were seen as the opposer, seen as the enemy. And, you were basically, the North American, Indians were just defending their right just to exist. Is this, kind of the history that you've been taught, or maybe share your own
Yes.
history?
Well, Tecumseh was a great warrior, and that's the reason why the White House got burnt down. And since the United States lost to Canada, the only way they'll accept that defeat is if Canada hands in Tecumseh. And that's what happened. Tecumseh was seeking a part of, I think it was east side of Canada for his own people. You see, so Canada can do that. They played their cards right, and I'm saying by dirty politics, by backstabbing Tecumseh, giving it to the Americans, and they killed. As long as the body went to America, they felt like they didn't go, they didn't lose that war in vain. You know what I mean? They had one of the greatest war chiefs that they ever had over there, because Tecumseh was coming all the way from all the way to the east to the west of Canada, United States, and he was rallying troops. He was the only reason why the White House burnt down. Without their fight, without those war chiefs at the time, they would have lost. Canada would have lost, or United States it would have been something totally different. This whole country would have been a different country without that. So you're right. The only reason why we had to come to war was only because of the fact that colonization was coming through our land. You look at Edmonton, you look at Toronto, everything. There used to be forts. There used to be Fort Edmonton, Fort Toronto. The treaty was a lie only because we already knew that they were going to come through anyways at great numbers, even though we fought them. That's why we had the 78-year war, the Great Indian Wars. Why there was the Wild West was not tamed land, the Cheyenne, all the way to Blackfoot, all the way to the Cree. They were untouched territories because we were united, we stand, divided, we fall. We were united. That's why they called it the Wild West, is because it was untamed territory. And every time they came, they got slaughtered. So when we knew at the end of the day that this is not going to last forever, these guys are started going at 70 years, that we had to make a treaty. And a part of the treaty was this. As soon as we did that, we live in harmonious peace. The first thing they did was they divided us, put us into these camps. They're called forts. And this is how Canada was formatted with the Land Claim Act. You had 5 years to develop your land. Europeans came by the boatloads, and they had to come over here, and they had to stake their land and develop it within 5 years. And by that being said, that's the time they started calling us wagon burners. You see? So that way, anytime we got out of our land, tried to defend our territory, the army would come destroy us. So we were already divided before then. And then after that, they sent us off to reservations. We were not allowed off the reservation. It would be illegal for us until 1951 without a pink card. That's why they were called the Indian agents. And they did a lot of atrocities to a woman. In order for us to eat rotten meat, the woman would have to sleep with the Indian agent. You see, this is what happened. This is why there was that Battle of Butte and, by Lloydminster, Belle Butte, is because they didn't want their young woman, 13, 12 years old, to sleep with those people no more. So they just went over there and killed them. And that's what it all happened. So there's a lot of history that nobody understands with the Native Americans and the colonizers here. And now they destroyed our culture. They destroyed our symbol, especially until 1978 in the United States, it passed Congress. 1979, it passed here in Canada, that we're allowed to study our cultures, but not our cree in our school. 1990, the last time I got strapped was 1989 to 1990 for speaking my tongue. So then after that, we lost our tongue. We lost our culture. This is why it's so significant now to bring that flag back, because it stakes our territory in our heart of who we are as true Indigenous people. Not Indigenous, but Native American Indian.
So 1951, prior, and North American Indians were not allowed to leave the reservation. And then after 1951, the only way you could leave the reservation was you had to apply for like a day pass, or like, because I remember
No,
hearing that somehow you had to apply for a pass in order to leave the reservation until the 70s or the 80s or something. This was
no, it
when
was
I
in
went.
1951. After 1951, you could leave the reservation. World War II, that wasn't our war. That's what I've always stated. That was not our perverse war. We had nothing to do with that. But a lot of Native Americans did go to that in the attempt to live freely. Because the Canadian government at that time said, we need your help. Once you leave the reservation, we'll give you Canadian status. And then you can own your own land. As a matter of fact, there was the Land Claim Act. When we went, even as a white person, to go to war, they would give you land for free. I think you heard about that. So a lot of people got to the land. But what has happened is, as soon as we stepped off the boats, we not only lost our privilege to buy land, but our status. Until 1981, Bill C-31 came in, and that's when was it Bill C-11? Bill C-31? I don't know. That's when we became we were able to fight for our status again. But that was a long time coming. How many years later? You see, so there's a lot of things that people don't understand about Native American policy or what has happened to us, and this is why this is the rise of the Red Nation. They say, is because we're taking back forcefully that sacred symbol, because that sacred symbol is the last straw. And it just so ironically has to be the most hated symbol, the most powerful symbol in the world in hate alone.
My first time I went to a sweat lodge was about almost 30 years ago. I've gone to many through different tribes, ever since. When I was at the Swastika for a sweat lodge, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, they were telling me there that they weren't allowed to leave their land without day passes until the 70s or the 80s. Like, they were not allowed to leave their reservation. They had to apply for a day pass. So literally that they were still in the concentration camp even after 1951. So I'm not sure if it's the same with different tribes, how some were maybe more free or others, but this is what was told to me by them, that they literally could not leave without applying for a pass, a day pass, to actually leave the reservation. So have you heard about this? Is it different for other tribes that you know about?
Well, I know treaties are they're almost the same, but various because of the fact of different cultures that they have, right? Different cultures and understandings. I cannot speak for Siksika at all, but I know that universally on a federal, they said 1951, roughly about that, as my grandfather said, roughly about that, right? So, yeah, Bill C-31 only applies to women. That's right. That is right. Because when women married out, they lost their status, 100%. And even then, after the war, a lot of people weren't able to get their status back, because when they went to the white man wars, they lost their status. Isn't that ironic? This is why the Treaty Land Entitlement Act was passed. So in the here's the funny thing about the Treaty Land Entitlement Act that I wanted to tell everybody. The Treaty Land Entitlement Act was passed because of the fact that after World War II, a lot of the Caucasian farmers would take Native American land, and a lot of the army bases would take Native American land and use it for their own good, right? For training and everything like that. And it went back to the federal government. So what happened was we fought back for our land that they have taken prior to World War II. And here's the kicker that people don't understand. Once we'd taken $18-20 million for our reservation to extend our land, right? They dictated to us that in order for this to happen, you have to buy some of the park systems that are underneath the Queensland and everything like that. And some of them you could buy some private land, but we'll tell you which ones to buy. But here's the land. This is great, beautiful land. It has a lot of resources for your people. I looked at that Indian Act, not the Indian Act, but that Treaty Land Entitlement Act. In that act, it says you will be under, because remember, the 40-60 split between Canada and the United States, Canada and the Pilgrims at the time was that we would share this country. But underneath that, the Queen Mother, the Queen or the Crown would be first party, and we would be third party to each other. You know, in case anything happens, we'd have to go to the court of law and try to figure it out, right? But here's the funny thing is about this all, as soon as we taken that money and we bought the land, we become first party to Canada and third party to the king, which means is when Teresa Spence was trying to, remember she was doing that hunger strike. She wanted to talk to the Governor General at the time, you know, she could not, because we had to follow underneath Canada now. So which means is that all that land we actually bought with a treaty land entitlement, we bought the Queen's land, which was high on resources, that actually got converted underneath federal land, you see? So basically, we bought land for the government, not ourselves.
Wow. Tell me that's not totally inverted in itself. So here is someone, Shelley Magan. She says, so okay, you never said that JD Anderson was not your chief. If you say
he's not
no,
my chief. He's not my chief.
She says, if you say no, you lie. I watched it on Facebook.
No, he's not my chief. He calls himself Chief Anderson. But the thing is, there's a lot of stories between the clanswomen. I did not do ceremony with them, and it was directed by me. But I knew who Chief Anderson was, and he was the one that introduced me to the Longhouse, and he did his important part. But when you want to play politics such as that, that's totally fine, because that's your own ideologies of what's going on. He is not my chief. He is also associate. And is he a friend? I don't know if he's a friend, because I don't really have friends in my life, to be honest with you. I have associates that I meet. I have a lot of people that respect me, come shake my hand. But are they really my friend? Because I think a friend for me is an older man that has more wisdom. You know what I mean? That actually wants to talk to me about my life and how I feel, how the intimate understanding. Those people are not my friends. They're associates. They're the people I have met down the line, or people that I've, just because I met somebody, who knows, if what's his name was here, Epstein was here, and I shook his hand because I don't know who the hell he is or what he is. Oh, is he my friend now? No. He's just a chance encounter, is what I'm saying. But that doesn't mean I'm ashamed to meet anybody that I meet. I met a lot of people that are my opposing forces at the very moment. You know what I mean? Because I already know who I am. I'm not going to go over there. I'm supposed to walk and meet everybody and understand who they are and understand where this political force is really going and who's playing. Because I know that a lot of people in the clan mother systems are all playing everybody, because they're playing master politics right now. And I know all I have to do is walk with natural law, no matter what, and not get involved with those groups.
What is natural law? What is natural law, and what does that mean to you?
Being truthful, respecting mind, body, and spirit, respecting the environment, respecting our mankind, and opposing the force of evil. Does that make sense in a nutshell?
Yeah. What do you immediately want to see happen in this Turtle Island, the Corporation of Canada, like, you know, in this immediate, because I think I know we're trying to help the world, but are we focused on right now Canada? Is that where you feel you can make the biggest difference because you're living in the land that they call Canada? Or what do you see needs to be done, you know, in the immediate for us to help break free from this slavery that, you know, we're all, you know, in when it comes to this money debt system of life?
First, we have to understand that money is nothing but an illusion. That's all debt. We lost our real money in 1971 when we signed in 1972 for credit. It used to be a gold standard. So the truth is, it's all a lie. We are not in debt. We have a rich country. It's the manipulation that we have because we're underneath corporation of this power. The truth is, we never lost debt. What we have lost is a sense of security of who we are and spirituality. That's what we really lost. I don't know if that makes sense, but what do I want Canada to understand is that men have to grow balls again, be men. Women have to be elders again. That's all we have to do is understand that there's two sacred feathers, and that's a male and female. And we have to go back to our natural law of who we are, what we were born with, and the understandings of our spirituality. And by understanding who we are first, then we will be able to understand what we can fix. Jesus said that one time. He said, you cannot pull a plank out of one person's eye unless you pull a plank out of your own eye first. And that's what I'm saying. We can't pretend that we know what the answers are out here in all these this world here without understanding that we are the problem too. I've always said that to chief and councils. How can you go talk about Donald Trump when you're driving around with four different tires on your vehicle? You can't even fix your vehicle, yet you're trying to talk about these elites? Fix that vehicle. Fix yourself. You cannot talk about political parties and every single thing if you're wiping your ass with old dirty socks. And people look at me like, what the hell are you talking about? No, it's true. You have to fix yourself first. You have to go back to your ceremonial teachings. You have to go back to Mother Nature. You have to learn these things, how to be a man, a proper man, and a woman to be a proper woman, and unite. And then you'll be able to change this world.
How do you think that we can accomplish this? What kind of steps do you see to making this happen in the next 6 months to 2 years?
Just rise that swastika. That's all. Because then the government will crash because they don't know what to do. As soon as that starts happening in Canada, it'll happen in the United States, it'll happen in New Zealand, it'll happen in Britain, it'll happen in Australia, and all the 56 Commonwealth countries, they'll start electing their own natural law in their countries. The natural aspect, their geographical location, their teachings there. And then the women and the men will come together. Because this perverse ideology that they're having with their identity politics is dividing people spiritually.
So, I know how to fight. So if I rose this flag and people came to oppose it, they would be coming
I'll stand beside you. I'll stand beside you.
But other people that are listening and they just go and rise the flag, and then
we come together. We come together in one spot, and then the native man or the native woman, they'll do the ceremony. They'll rise it, because then it becomes a ceremony under Section 35 of the Canadian Constitution. We're fighting for this spiritual right, and because of that, you're showing support. Haven't you guys risen Black Lives Matter flags before? There's no difference.
Not me.
But you know what I'm talking about. We're not talking about the political aspect of it. We're talking about the moral implication of it. I'm not saying because it became a political party. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I agree with Black Lives Matter, just like every lives matter. The stuff that's been happening to people of darker colors, melanin skin, is horrific and horrendous. And I agree that none of that should happen. But, the whole movement was funded by Soros and another movement to divide the people. And, this movement here with this swastika flag could potentially divide the people. And so we're looking to try to unify people, and not divide them. So how do we break down those barriers of indoctrination of people looking at that as a Hitler Nazi flag, and wanting to stand with you, Adrien, and hold that flag proudly without having to, be attacked by that opposing force who control the governments, who control the media, who control the narrative, who will look to anyone that's carrying that flag as the enemy when that's not what you want. But there's a potential of this happening because they don't want the Thunderbird flag to rise in truth and power, because it seems like that's just another way for them to have control over the North American Indian people.
Well, first and foremost, you have to search your heart. Fear is the only thing that's going to take you down. See, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the power to do what's right. And so if they don't want to rise it, then they have to question why. It's because they're scared. And that's okay to be scared. There's nothing wrong with being scared and fearful. You're going to protect your bank accounts, but sooner or later, they're going to take your land. Remember that. You're going to protect your children, but sooner or later, they're going to take away their education. Remember that. At what point, 10 years from now, we should have rose it? That's why I always say, think about it. Go back. Because at the end of the day, what's going to happen to people is your children are going to be indoctrinated. And only one person done that before in this such thing was Hitler. So think about it's up to you guys to do it. And you guys just have to look at your grandchildren. How much are you
Something's happening with the Wi-Fi, Adrian, and
to tell
you're
you guys
frozen.
that you guys have to see yourself,
Something,
right?
Adrian, something was happening with the Wi-Fi. I couldn't hear anything was the last thing that you said. So I'm not sure if the Wi-Fi from the house is being, but I couldn't hear that last thing that you just said.
Okay, just hold on. You just have to look at yourself. You have to make amends with yourself. You have to understand yourself. You have to see who you really are, because most people do not have a spiritual awakening, but at the same time pray. That's all you have to do. What would your forefathers do? That's all I'm saying. Because fear, like I said, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is actually, the truth of doing what's right in your life. So it's all up to them. But sooner or later you'll start seeing some things happen. But I gotta take off. I got an event to go to. I'm just gonna be leaving Edmonton here, so I'm gonna try to get there as soon as I can.
No, this was great. Thank you so much for
Bit
coming
of
here.
questions there for a lot of people.
Yeah, thank you. People are really curious. They want to know because most of the people that we have here that watch and support the missing link are truthers, people that want to know what's going on, people that want to be enlightened, people that want to come together, people that want to stop the tyranny. And, that's what, we're about here is, educating people. I know Hope, Love, and Joy talks about, people getting together in the people in similar places. So if everybody, we've got over 100 people watching live now, if you can just maybe say where you're from and connect with anybody that is close to you. Have you ever thought about, all the people that support you and your movement doing something like what they do in politics, going door to door and start educating people that way? Hey, have you ever heard of the Thunderbird? Have you ever heard of this? Just start ground root movements door to door just to enlighten people, because there is great like podcasts like this, but we are in other podcasts that you go to, but most of the people that watch it are pretty much awake and aware when we're trying to reach people that are still programmed by the media, that are still programmed, that will never see a podcast like this, that only get their information from the news, just to be able to reach more and more people, and then maybe find out, hey, what do you think? Have a little, clipboard of people that are supporting. Maybe, hey, if you do support this, can we get your email address? Maybe so we can send you information just to try to to enlighten more people and see how many people are actually in alignment or in agreement with who you are and what your moment is.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I don't mind going to events if that has to happen. If they plan the event and we have people there, going door to door is not productive as much as it used to be back in the 30s and 40s and 50s. What we can do is plan an event, and then we can have a discussion on stage, and then we can bring that out that way. Secondly, I'm not here for unity. I'm here for division. That's what people have to understand. I'm here to separate the real lions from the sheep. And then over time, when they start seeing it growing, then they'll understand the truth, because the truth, there's a division between the truth and the lie. And that's what we have to look at. Then we bring them back, because that's what they're doing to us. They're dividing us in order to take away anyways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Matt wants to know what's on your ring for some reason. Can you maybe show your ring?
That's the lion.
Is that like the Lion King of Judah? Is that the lion? Like, what does that lion represent for you?
It's biblical. It means, you know, you have to have courage. And your forefinger. That's what it means.
Potlucks. If you get everyone together at a barbecue potluck, knocking on doors, you can save the homeless neighborhood watch, etc. You know, he's really a proponent of people getting to know people in each other's communities, because it all is community based. If they ever come and want to come with their people, at least people in their community can help protect each other from this tyrannical government. But I know you got to go. Thank you again for your information. Thanks for having the courage to stand up for something that is visibly been targeted by, you know, the media, by the Nazis, by Hitler, you know, and you're showing, you know, your people, you're showing the people that people can support their movement and you without having to be supporting, you know, no Nazi type of movement that wants to harm people. They just want people to come together.
Well, thank you for having me in the show. And I also wanted to say, like, you know, talk to Owen, talk to anybody, talk to a lot of people. All we need to do is have like a conference. That's all it is. We can set that up with a lot of people that actually know how to set up, you know, planners and promoters or whatever they want to do, to fund the event. Because I'm not there. I don't need to make money. I just need to get there and spread the knowledge. And that could pay for like the conference center. That's all it needs. I don't know how much it is for a couple hours. I know it was like $3,000, but if you have 300 people that, you know, put $10 each, that's just what it is. Information is free, and the truth should be free. You know, this is not a religion. This is about talking about truth. And that's what I think. If you have it Saskatoon, Calgary, Edmonton, Toronto, those kind of things, then that's the real movement, and that's where we actually understand. Because I don't mind being the voice, and then later on the clans mothers and basic women and basic men, basic children coming all the way through to understand that everybody's voice needs to be heard. That's what I think. I think that's how we change the narrative of everything, because like I said, we all have to come together. That's what I'm saying. So, but thank you for allowing me on your show. And yeah, nothing else I can
Thanks
say.
again. May the source be with you. May protection be around you. I know that this isn't the easiest road to take, but it's the road that you feel is right. And, you know, for that, you know, I hope that all things come to you and everybody, that, you know, there's peace, love, happiness, you know, we can finally get away from this tyrannical system. Have you heard of the constitutionalconventions.ca? They got a Zoom room every night where they're bringing people together with the ideas on this Zoom room. Have you ever tried joining their Zoom room to see what they thought of you and, you know, the stuff that you're doing?
They've been on my TikTok for, I think, over the last half a year already. I haven't done that right now because I don't want to get involved too much about anything else other than with my elders has been telling me for now. I just have to spread the truth for now, for our understandings. Later on down the line, like I said, when I was talking to Independence Party and NDP and everything, they were thinking that I should start a political movement. I said, it's not going to happen that way. It's not going to happen. It has to happen by the people. In order for Canada to go down, what they're talking with you know, that organization, we first must make people aware of certain things. And I know that's what they are doing too, from that, but not on that scale. We have to do it publicly. We have to create, you know, a movement where people are going to be offended, people are going to be confused, people are going to be scared. But that's how things change in every single country, in every single war. Doesn't matter what happens, things had to arise first, and that's what we're trying to do here. And then the smarter leaders that are more powerful women out there, they're the ones that are gonna, cultivate this land that we call Canada into something stronger. That's all I know. I'm just a voice. I'm just a man with the swastika. That's all it is. So hopefully that makes
Okay,
sense.
brother. Yeah, I'm totally. Okay, brother. Thanks again. May the source be with you. Thanks everybody for all your likes, comments, hearts, shares, and stars. We appreciate all of your love and support. I'm Jesse Howell, the host here of The Missing Link. There is one more missing link that we're going to start in about 24 minutes. That's Stephen Manning from Ireland. He's going to be talking about some of this gender dysphoria. He's a man of symbols. He used to be a man of the book, I guess. He used to be a clergyman. And now he's being targeted by, the corrupt government in Ireland. They just arrested him a few days ago again for another 30-day sentence. He got out after 24 hours by the warden on some conditions. So I'm not sure if he can speak about his arrest, but he's going to be talking about other things. A beautiful man, teacher. We've had him a bunch of times. So we'll see you back here on 23 minutes, back on The Missing Link if you have a chance. Otherwise, we'll see you next time we see you. Bye, Adrien. Thanks again. And we'll see you next time we see you back on The Missing Link. Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful day.